Hey, what's going on everybody? How's it going? This is Waj, and in this video I'm going to be doing a direct head-to-head drone comparison between the Parrot Bebop drone and the DJI Phantom 2. Now, here on one side we have a drone from a company that makes professional video equipment and also lots of aerial photography equipment. That's the DJI standpoint, and the Phantom 2 is probably one of the most popular kind of serious entry-level quadcopters for aerial photography. And on the other side, we have a company like Parrot that's been making a lot of RC toys and novelty items, and they've certainly made a couple of different quadcopters in the past, namely the AR drone series of quadcopters. And the Bebop is really their first introduction into the more serious quadcoptering aerial photography space, and it's definitely geared in line for people that are perhaps getting their first serious quadcopter for aerial photography. And that makes it in the direct lines of fire of one of the most popular drones out there, the Phantom series. And so in this video we're going to be comparing the Phantom 2 coupled with a GoPro Hero 4 versus the Bebop drone. So if you're interested in perhaps getting one of these in the future, or perhaps you're just interested in seeing on what the entry market is for aerial photography drones, this is a perfect video for you. So without any further ado, let's get right into this comparison. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the overall design and form factors of these two quadricopters. You can see that the Bebop is completely different in terms of design and overall construction compared to the DJI Phantom 2. Basically, they're made out of similar materials, though, really high quality and durable polycarbonate plastics. Now, one thing I do have to mention is that the fit and finish on the Phantom is a little bit better than what we find on the Parrot Bebop drone. Basically, the Bebop feels a little bit more plasticky and more like a toy, and the Phantom 2 just basically feels a little bit better put together and a little bit better thought out. Now, in terms of the physical dimensional differences, the Bebop drone measures about 280 by 320, and it's about 36 millimeters in terms of its height, and the Phantom 2 measures about 290 by 290, and it's about 180 millimeters in terms of height, so certainly taller than the Bebop, but that's because it houses the gimbal and camera system down below, unlike the Bebop, which has the camera built into the drone itself, which certainly makes it a little bit more aerodynamic. And since the Bebop is not as tall as the Phantom, basically you do have a lower center of gravity, which means that when you come in for a landing, it's less likely to tip over, which I've definitely experienced a couple of times on the DJI Phantom 2. Now, in terms of weight, the Bebop is very, very lightweight. It only measures about 390 grams with the battery inside, and that's pretty darn impressive considering the DJI Phantom 2, which with the Zenmuse gimbal and a GoPro 4 camera measures about 1112 grams, which is considerably more. Now, thankfully, with that larger mass, the DJI Phantom 2 does have much larger propellers than what we find on the Bebop drone, which definitely propels it very fast. In fact, in terms of the maximum velocity of horizontal travel, the Phantom can go up to 15 meters per second versus the Bebop can go about 13 meters per second. So even with that larger overall mass, thanks to the props and the more powerful motors, the Phantom 2 can definitely get going whenever you need it to. Now, moving forward, one of the most important factors about getting any quadricopter is a battery runtime. Now, in terms of the battery size itself, basically on the DJI Phantom 2 we have a much larger battery, and it's certainly going to be a lot heavier, but you also are going to get more flight time. Basically, it's about a 5200 milliamp hours versus the Bebop comes with two 1200 milliamp hour batteries. So basically you can get 11 minutes in terms of flight time, which is certainly not bad considering the small overall form factor, and the fact that Parrot gives you two batteries is nice. You can get about 22 minutes in flight time. The Phantom 2 gets about 25 minutes of flight time on a single battery. Now, installing the Bebop battery is a little bit more of a tedious process compared to the process on the DJI, which is very simple and straightforward. You just basically pop in the battery right then and there, versus the Bebop, you have to fiddle around with a wire, and in most cases, the battery never sits right in the actual chassis itself, so it definitely doesn't have that kind of premium and ease of use that we find on the DJI Phantom. In terms of battery monitoring, monitoring. Basically, with the Bebop, you can monitor your battery life via the mobile app that controls your drone, whether that be on a phone or tablet. Now, on the Phantom 2, it's pretty straightforward to monitor your battery life. Basically, you can take a look at the back of the battery. It has 4 LED lights, and it will give you an indication of how much juice is left in the battery itself. Now, in terms of connectivity options, both of these drones have GPS capabilities, so they'll both track the exact coordinates of the drone itself, and consequently, you do have return to home feature on both of these drones. So if in any way you lose contact with home base on any one of these drones, they will land on where they originally took off, and in most cases, both of them work flawlessly when it comes to that feature. Now, let's move on and talk about one of the main reasons why anybody would want to get a drone like these two, and that's mainly because that they're going to use it as a flying camera platform. And straight off the bat, I have to mention that these two platforms are fairly different. The Phantom 2 requires that you have your own GoPro camera, whether that be a GoPro Hero 3 or GoPro Hero 4. I'm using the GoPro Hero 4 Black Edition. Now, if you want a more comprehensive system, you're probably going to want to go with the DJI Phantom 2 Vision Plus, which has that built-in camera. It's a more complete solution, and it'll probably save you a little bit of money down the road, but you are going to get better quality if you go with your own GoPro camera. Now, the Bebop drone itself has a 14 megapixel stills capabilities. It has a fisheye lens, and it has 1080p 30 frames per second video capabilities. In terms of the quality itself, it's like an iPhone 5 in terms of the video quality itself. So it's definitely passable and looks great in most lighting conditions, but in low light, it really does suffer quite a bit. You have 8 gigabytes of internal memory. Sadly, you cannot upgrade the internal, so you're pretty much stuck with that amount, and it starts recording as soon as you take off. Now, the footage that comes out of the Bebop is quite stable. In fact, it has a built-in stabilization system which uses the entire 14 megapixel sensor and does its internal processing to stabilize a certain image, and it looks great. There's very little jello effect and artifacts with that process, and it's certainly darn impressive. The field of view isn't as high as what we find in, let's say, our setup with the GoPro Hero 4 on the Phantom 2, but it's certainly not bad for the price range. Now, in terms of the video quality, our Phantom 2 setup is in another league in terms of video capabilities. Basically, with the GoPro Hero 4 Black Edition, we can do 30 frames per second 4K video. We can also do a couple of different resolution at a couple of different frame rates, including 720p at 200 frames per second, which is really, really impressive. So in terms of the camera quality and capabilities of a Phantom 2 with a Zenmuse gimbal coupled with a GoPro Hero 4 is really quite outstanding, and even rivals the capabilities of the brand new DJI Inspire 1, which has a built-in 4K camera. And in fact, in terms of video capabilities and versatility, I think the GoPro Hero 4 Black Edition probably delivers better overall capabilities in terms of video compared to the built-in camera on that $3,500 drone from DJI. So in terms of bang for dollar, you can't really get better than this particular setup with the GoPro Hero 4 with a Phantom 2 and a Zenmuse gimbal. Now let's talk about the flight capabilities of both these two drones. I think the DJI Phantom 2 is a little bit more of a stable platform. In terms of hovering deviations, it definitely doesn't wander too much in terms of the vertical and horizontal deviations, versus the Bebop definitely struggles to keep one specific area in lock, especially if you're not controlling anything and just hovering along. It definitely likes to deviate back and forth, and it's tough to get the Bebop to stand still in one specific direction, especially if you want to capture a static shot. Now, in terms of the overall kind of maneuverability, I think the agility of the Bebop is a little bit more than what we find on the Phantom 2, since it's lighter and it has more than enough thrust to do a whole bunch of different other things. You can do cool things like do tricks with it. Now, keep in mind that you can do tricks on the Phantom 2 as well. You just have to switch it to full manual controls, which is certainly not for the faint of heart and not recommended for novice flyers out there. Now, controlling these two drones is fairly straightforward. If you get the flight controller with the Bebop drone, it's a lot easier than using the touchscreen app controls that you'll find on your smartphone or your tablet. You will always need to connect your Bebop to a smartphone or tablet to basically monitor the drone itself, but with that Sky controller, you get a much more extended range. Your range goes from 300 meters to almost 2,000 meters, which is certainly darn impressive and makes this more of a serious tool when it comes to flying around long-range trips. Now, keep in mind that you only have an 11-minute minute battery, so you definitely want to be careful when you're going more than a kilometer away with that Sky controller. Now, the standard radio on the DJI Phantom 2 can travel up to 1,000 meters in terms of the communication link, so you can easily go about a kilometer away from the drone, and I've tested it myself several times and it works quite flawlessly. I've never had an experience where I've lost control of the drone and it flew away for whatever reason. It was a lot more stable and consistent compared to my experience with the Bebop drone, which was a little bit more lackluster in terms of its connectivity. Now, the final thing that we're going to talk about is the overall price point and value of these two drones. Now, in terms of US pricing, we're looking at under the $900 mark with the Bebop drone and the Sky controller combo, and that's pretty good value considering it is a 1080p camera that's a pretty decent quality. It's very similar to what you would find on the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, and additionally, because it interfaces with your smartphone and tablet via Wi-Fi, you can easily monitor what the drone is looking at all times, which is a really great. And with the Sky controller, you can hook up a pair of 3D vision goggles, whether that be from Sony or Oculus Rift or something like that, and fly using those goggles, which is certainly going to be interesting at this price point. Now, the DJI Phantom 2 with the ZenMuse gimbal retails for around the $899 mark, similar price compared to the Bebop drone. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to get a camera with that price, so you can either choose from the GoPro Hero 3 lineup of cameras or the GoPro Hero 4. I went with the black edition of the GoPro Hero 4, which retails for about $500, so that's about $1,400 total for this drone setup that I have right now to make this video. Now, at that price point, that is really good value in terms of the actual sheer video capabilities and overall ease of use, but you don't really have a proper way to monitor your video while the drone is flying. To do that, you're going to have to invest in some kind of FPV kit. That's probably going to retail for around $400 to $600, and that's going to basically bring your aerial setup to around that $2,000 mark, and that's more than double of what the Bebop goes for. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to get into the aerial photography space and you want an all-encompassing solution, I think the Bebop has a lot going for it. Certainly when you get to know the product and you understand what it's capable of, I think it really delivers on everything that is promised. And with that Sky controller, it becomes more than just a novelty toy. So hopefully that gives you guys some sort of direction to go with. And by the way, if you're just wanting to get into the quadricopter space to practice before you go into the big toys, you can probably pick up something under $40 just to practice with. And that way, if you crash it, you won't feel bad and you'll have some experience when you play with the big boy toys. But other than that, guys, that's really it. If you have any specific questions about anything, make sure to leave that on a comment down below. And if you want more information about each product, we'll have those specific Amazon links in the description. If you go through any of our Amazon links and get anything, whether they be this product you're looking for or something else, it gives us a little bit of kickback and helps us support the channel, make videos like this possible. So thank you so much for your support. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and we'll see you later. Take care.